She wasn't supposed to use her powers, but if she didn't, he would die. She was a mermaid. She made a dangerous deal. She cannot use magic, but, for love, she made a huge sacrifice that will cost her everything. Was it worth it?
Chapter 5. The Unraveling. Those small pockets of peace weren't enough. The king, seeing only his son's public decline, grew more desperate. His council advised that a strong marriage would stabilize the prince's mind and secure an alliance. So, a grand announcement was made. Prince Alaric was to be betrothed to Princess Isolde of the Northern Isles. For Mira, the news was a sharp, cold pain, the confirmation of a future she could never have. But for Lyra, it was gasoline on a centuries-old fire. A prince of the bloodline that betrayed her was once again choosing a human princess, repeating the very sin that created her. Her rage exploded. The fragile wards of iron and salt were shattered. The night of the betrothal feast was a grand affair. The hall was filled with music and laughter. Prince Alaric stood beside his father and his new fiancée, his face a pale mask. Mira watched from the shadows, her heart a leaden weight. She could see Lyra, a vortex of shimmering rage, hovering near the high rafters, more solid and terrifying than ever. As the king rose to give the final toast, Lyra descended. It began with a sudden, unnatural silence. The music died. A bone-deep chill swept through the hall, extinguishing half the candles. A low moan, like the sound of a drowning woman, echoed off the stone walls. Panic rippled through the crowd. Then, the spirit fully manifested. A whirlwind of air and phantom water erupted in the center of the hall, centered on Prince Alaric. Tapestries were ripped from the walls. Goblets and plates were flung into the air. In the heart of it all, Lyra's form was almost fully visible, her face a mask of incandescent rage. Alaric choked, clutching at his neck as if invisible hands were strangling him. Ice, real and solid, began crawling up his clothes, frosting his hair and skin. He gasped for air, his lips turning blue. Princess Isolde screamed. The guards drew their swords, but they were just slashing at wind. Prince Alaric was dying, right in front of everyone, including the woman who secretly loved him. Chapter 6. The Choice and the Sacrifice. Mira watched the chaos, her blood running cold. All her plans, all her human remedies had led to this. Failure. The man she loved was drowning, and she was out of time. There was only one choice left. His life, or her humanity. She saw Alaric's eyes, wide with pain, find hers across the hall. It wasn't a plea. It was a goodbye. And in that single, heartbreaking look, her decision was made. A world without him in it wasn't a world she wanted to be human in. She pushed through the panicked crowd, her movements no longer clumsy, but filled with a purpose, as ancient as the tides. She walked into the heart of the spectral storm. Lyra turned her furious gaze on her, the threat clear. You will lose him, just as I did. Mira ignored her. She closed her eyes, shutting out the chaos, the screams, the face of the man she was about to save and lose in the same breath. She reached deep inside herself, past the pain, past the fear, past the divine shackle that had bound her for so long. She reached for the part of her she thought was gone forever. She reached for the sea, and she sang. It wasn't a human song. There were no words, no melody a human ear could grasp. It was the sound of the deep, ocean-given voice. It was the crushing pressure of the abyss, the irresistible pull of the tide, the ancient, cold power of water itself. Her voice, once soft and unremarkable, now filled the hall with a power that shook the very stones of the castle. It was the magic she had sworn she would never use. Chapter 7. The Cost of a Soul. The effect was instant. The raging whirlwind ceased. The phantom water in the air was drawn towards Mira, absorbed into her. The spirit Lyra's form wavered, her rage extinguished by a power far older and greater than her own sorrow. The song didn't destroy her. It soothed her. It commanded her grief to be still. And finally, gently, it severed the anchor of pain that had bound her to the castle for centuries. With a final, sorrowful sigh, Lyra's form dissolved into a shower of glittering mist, and she was gone. Prince Alaric collapsed, gasping but breathing. The curse was broken. He was free. But as the final note of Mira's song faded, she felt a violent, wrenching pull. The pact was shattered. The sea goddess was calling. A faint, pearlescent shimmer appeared on her arms, like the ghost of scales. Her legs, her constant source of pain, now burned with a new transformative fire. The sea was calling its daughter home, and it would not be denied. When Prince Alaric awoke, the great hall was in ruins, but the chilling presence that had haunted his life was gone. His mind was finally quiet. His only thought was of her, Mira. He scanned the room, his eyes passing over his father, the nobles, and his bewildered fiancée, searching for the one person who mattered. He found her standing on the grand balcony overlooking the sea cliffs. Moonlight streamed down, illuminating her silhouette. As he walked towards her, his heart pounding with a terrible understanding, he saw the transformation. Shimmering scales were now visible on her back and arms. Her simple dress was tearing away to reveal the beginnings of a magnificent, powerful tail, glittering like 1,000 emeralds and sapphires in the moonlight. He reached out to touch her, but an invisible barrier, like a wall of dense sea spray, pushed him back. The sea was claiming its own. Their worlds could no longer touch. She turned her head, and their eyes met one last time. In his, she saw it all. His gratitude, his shock, his dawning love, and the devastating grief of knowing it was impossible. He finally understood her secret and the true depth of her sacrifice. He mouthed 2 words through the barrier. "Thank you." Mira gave him a smile of heartbreaking beauty, an infinite sadness. A smile that held all the love she could never speak. Then, with the innate grace of a creature returning to its element, she dove from the balcony. There was no splash, just a seamless entry into the dark water below, leaving behind nothing but the faint scent of salt and a prince made whole again. Prince Alaric would go on to be a wise and just king. He ruled alone, never marrying. He spent the rest of his days governing by the sea, and every evening he would stand on that same balcony, watching the waves, searching for a face in the endless blue that he knew he could never touch again. The prince was saved, but the cost was the woman who loved him enough to give up everything. She saved his life, but in doing so, lost her own. Was it worth it? Would you have made the same choice? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more tales of tragic romance and powerful magic.